Let me paint the picture for you. February 14th, 2026. Valentine's Day. Supposed to be hearts, flowers, all that nonsense, right? Instead, I woke up swallowed by darkness. Not regular darkness. The heavy kind. The kind that feels solid, like you could grab a handful of it. My breath came out in white clouds inside my own bedroom, like I was sleeping outdoors in the Rockies instead of my own damn house. No heat, no electricity, nothing, just silence and cold. The kind of cold that sneaks under your blankets, settles into your bones, and quietly mutters, "You're on your own, pal." Outside, branches cracked like gunshots. Ice snapped under pressure, and somewhere in the distance transformers popped, little miserable fireworks echoing through the neighborhood. That's when reality set in. This wasn't some average winter storm. This was the worst ice storm Silver Ridge, Colorado had seen in decades. I'd find out later that nearly half the city was without power. But right then, all I knew was my thermostat blinking 51 degree, then 50 degree, heading south fast. My phone battery sat at 23%, and I could already tell this was going to be a long, ugly day. Name's Ethan Parker. And yeah, here's the early plot twist. I'm the CEO of North Peak Energy, the second largest utility provider in the state. Funny thing is, not a single one of my neighbors knew that. I drove an old, beat-up Tacoma. I wore faded Home Depot hoodies. I kept my head down, waved politely, and went back inside. That anonymity? I liked it. Quiet street, mountain views, no nonsense. Or at least, that's what I thought. Because if you've ever lived under an HOA, you already know the truth. Peace is temporary. Drama is inevitable. And in my case, drama had a name, Veronica Hale. Veronica Hale, president of the Silver Ridge Estates Homeowners Association, self-appointed sheriff, part-time tyrant, full-time nightmare. She was 54, always perfectly styled, even during a blizzard, strutting around in expensive coats that made 0 cents on icy sidewalks at 6 in the morning. She treated HOA bylaws like holy scripture. No exaggeration. I once watched her scold a guy for 15 straight minutes because his trash bin was visible for more than 6 hours. 6 hours. So yeah, you can probably imagine how she reacted to a citywide blackout. By 7 a.m., my house temperature had dipped to 49 degrees. I was already on my third call with my operations manager, Kyle, coordinating emergency response, mutual aid crews rolling in from Utah and Wyoming, power reroutes, priority restoration for hospitals, water treatment plants, fire stations, the whole mess. We had over 180 linemen out there, covered in ice like walking armor, climbing poles, chainsaws screaming nonstop, guys risking their lives so people could flip a light switch again. And there I was, standing in my kitchen lair in a hoodie and ski jacket, chewing on a protein bar that tasted like frozen cardboard, thinking, all right, we're stuck like this for days. So I did what any semi-prepared adult would do. I went into the garage, dragged out my industrial-grade electric heater, plugged it into my truck's inverter, ran an extension cord to the side door, and set the thing up in my living room. Was it pretty? No. Was it OSHA-approved? Highly doubtful. Did it keep my pipes from bursting and my fingers from going numb? You bet it did. Problem solved, or so I believed. Around 8:15 a.m., I'm standing there, laptop open, checking outage maps through my phone's hotspot, half listening as Kyle explains a collapsed transmission tower near Pine Creek. That's when I hear it. The knock. Not a friendly knock. Not a neighborly knock. This was the knock of authority. Sharp. Fast. Demanding. 3 hits. Pause. 2 more. I didn't even bother with the peephole. I already knew. I opened the door and there stood Veronica Hale, wrapped in a cream-colored designer coat, hair perfectly curled, clutching a tablet like she was about to write me a ticket. Behind her were 2 HOA board members, Linda and Marcy, nodding along like dashboard bobbleheads. "Mr. Parker," she said flatly, no smile. "I'm conducting emergency compliance checks." Emergency compliance checks? I blinked. "Morning, Veronica." I took a sip of my now lukewarm coffee. It's about 30 degrees. The city's dark. People are freezing. You want to come in and warm up? She ignored me completely. "I've observed," she continued, tapping her tablet, that you're operating an unauthorized heating device powered by a vehicle inverter. I nodded slowly. Yeah, it's called not dying. Her lips tightened. Section 14, paragraph C of our covenants prohibits high-wattage devices without prior approval. Additionally, running extension cords through entryways creates a liability hazard. I just stared at her. Veronica, the power grid is down. Yes, and the rules still apply. She fired back instantly. No pause. No empathy. Just rules. I'm going to need you to surrender the device. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was unhinged. You want to take my heater during a historic ice storm while half the city has no power? It's for community safety, she replied coolly. We've already confiscated several. Confiscated, like she was running a dictatorship instead of a suburban HOA. Linda leaned in and added, everyone's making sacrifices. That's when I felt it, that familiar tension in your jaw, the kind that quietly warns you, all right, patience is running out. Veronica, I said carefully, forcing my voice to stay calm. I've been coordinating disaster response since 3 this morning. I'm not giving you my heater. Her eyes narrowed, sharp and icy. I have authority to enforce compliance. If you refuse, I'm authorized to remove violations myself. I couldn't stop myself. I laughed again. So let me get this straight. You're threatening to break into my house and steal my property during a natural disaster? It's enforcement, Marcy muttered under her breath. Tell you what, I said, pulling out my phone. I'll call the sheriff, and we'll let them decide whether this is enforcement or burglary. Veronica's face flushed a deep, angry red. Fine. Expect fines. Legal action. Liens. Don't think for a second I won't pursue every option available. And with that, she spun on her heel and marched off down the icy sidewalk. I stood there watching her go, thinking that had to be the end of it. It wasn't. 15 minutes later, I was staring out my front window when I saw her leaving my neighbor Tom's house, carrying his propane heater. Tom is 72 years old, a retired teacher. He stood there in socks and a thin bathrobe, shoulders slumped, looking like someone had just stolen the last bit of warmth he had left. And in that moment, something inside me snapped into place. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't about rules. This was about control. And Veronica was only warming up. All right, let me pause the story right here for a second, because this is usually the moment where people watching are thinking, wait, can an HOA actually do that? Can they really take your stuff? Do they really have that kind of power? Short answer? No, not like that. Not even close. Most homeowner associations operate under what's called CC and RS, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. It's essentially a civil contract you agree to when you buy the house. Paint colors, parking rules, noise complaints, landscaping standards, dues, all that boring suburban fine print. But here's the part power-hungry board members either forget or pretend not to understand. Legally speaking, an HOA is a civil organization, not law enforcement. They can fine you. They can send warning letters. They can take you to civil court. What they cannot do is walk onto your property, seize your belongings, or break into your garage like there's some kind of neighborhood police department. That's trespassing. And if they take something, that's theft. No amount of bylaw quoting changes that. Now, let's talk psychology for a second, because Veronica's behavior wasn't random. This is a classic trap small authority figures fall into. When someone gets a tiny bit of power, HOA president, committee chair, rule enforcer, and their real life doesn't offer much control, that role becomes their entire identity. They stop thinking, I'm a volunteer helping my neighbors. They start thinking, I'm in charge. Rules turn into weapons. Procedures become excuses. And emergencies? Emergencies are opportunities, because people are cold, tired, scared, and vulnerable. And control feels strongest when everyone else feels weak. In her mind, she wasn't being cruel. She was being responsible. She wasn't harassing people. She was maintaining standards. That self-justification is what makes people like her dangerous. They genuinely believe they're the hero of the story. And once someone believes that, they start crossing lines they never thought they would. Which brings us to what happened next. After Veronica's little inspection tour with her fan club, things didn't calm down. They escalated fast. By the end of day 1, my house temperature had dropped to 48 degrees. By day 2, it was sitting at 43. I slept in sweatpants, a hoodie, a winter jacket, and a beanie, like I was gearing up for an Arctic expedition. At the same time, my phone never stopped buzzing. Kyle, engineers, crew supervisors, emergency management, state regulators. Every call was another disaster. Another line down. Another substation failed. 2 linemen with frostbite. A tree wiped out Circuit 19. We were fighting a hydra. Cut off one problem, and 3 more popped up. And somehow, in the middle of all that, Veronica still found time for her crusade. She filed a formal complaint with the Public Utilities Commission accusing North Peak Energy of negligence. She emailed the Better Business Bureau. She called 2 local news stations. Then she sent me a certified letter demanding I remove illegal equipment and pay $5,000 in fines. $5,000 for trying not to freeze. I remember sitting at my dining table, fingers numb, rereading that letter and thinking, is this woman actually serious? But there was no time to spiral. People needed power, so I kept working. Then, on the morning of day 3, everything changed. I was on a conference call with our engineering team, laptop balanced on my knees inside my truck, because it was warmer than my house, when I heard a sound near my garage. A scrape, metal on metal, slow, deliberate. I muted my mic and pulled up my security camera app. And there she was, Veronica, with Linda beside her, standing at my garage door, holding tools. My stomach dropped as I watched, frozen, as they worked at the lock like amateurs in a low-budget heist movie. Twist, pop, the garage door cracked open. I ended the call immediately. No explanation. Just said, emergency, and ran. By the time I hit the door into the garage, they were already halfway inside, moving straight toward my heater like they owned the place. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. They both jumped. Veronica spun around, her face rigid, jaw clenched. We warned you, she snapped. We're removing a safety hazard. You broke into my garage. I said, that's a felony. We have authority, she insisted. But this time her voice wavered just a little. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Linda's face drained of color. Veronica, maybe we should leave, she whispered urgently. Stay where you are, I said into the phone. 2 intruders in my garage. I have video. That did it. Veronica panicked. She grabbed Linda by the arm, and they bolted. I chased them outside, reading her license plate out loud as she jumped into her Lexus and peeled off down the street. 20 minutes later, Deputy Harris arrived. Big guy, calm voice, zero nonsense. He watched the footage twice, slowly shook his head, and looked at me. This is clear-cut trespass and attempted theft. Do you want to press charges? I thought about Tom standing in his doorway, shivering, looking beaten. Yes, I said, I do. And just like that, it became real. Charges were filed. Veronica completely lost it. First, she denied everything. Then she blamed me. Then she blamed the HOA. Then she claimed she was protecting the community. None of it mattered. The video didn't lie. A few days later, instead of backing off, she doubled down. She sent another letter, this one threatening foreclosure. She scheduled an emergency HOA meeting, mandatory attendance, basically a public trial. So I showed up exhausted, running on caffeine and stubbornness, barely sleeping for days. The clubhouse was packed. Everyone was cold. Everyone was tired. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Veronica sat front and center, like a queen on a throne. She opened with a speech accusing me of harassment, defiance, filing false police reports, and endangering residents. Then she proposed $15,000 in fines, liens, and foreclosure. Finally, she pointed at me. You have 5 minutes. I stood up, walked to the front, and told the truth. I'm the CEO of North Peak Energy, I said. Gasps, murmurs, phones coming out. I've been coordinating power restoration nonstop. My house is cold just like yours. I use a heater so I could keep working. And because of that, Veronica harassed me, filed false complaints, and broke into my garage. I laid it all out. The threats, the break-in, the police report. Then I looked at the board. This isn't about rules. This is about power. Silence. Then one board member spoke. Perhaps we should suspend this matter. Veronica snapped. I call for vote. 2 hands went up. Hers. Linda's. No one else. Motion failed. Then something incredible happened. Another board member stood up. I moved to suspend Veronica pending investigation. Seconded. The vote passed. Just like that. 6 years of control. Gone. Her face collapsed. She stormed out. And that still wasn't the end. Court came next. Trial. Evidence. Witnesses. Video. The judge didn't buy her story for even a second. Guilty. Trespass. Attempted theft. 90 days in jail. Probation. Community service. Counseling. Civil lawsuit. Settled. $75,000. A formal apology. Permanently banned from HOA leadership. I donated the money. I didn't want it. I didn't need it. I just wanted peace. And slowly, the neighborhood healed. New board. New rules. More humanity. Power came back. Heat returned. Life moved forward. But the lesson stayed. You know what's wild about this whole story? It didn't start with a crime. It didn't start with a lawsuit. It didn't even start with hatred. It started with a space heater. A metal box that blows hot air. Something millions of people own. Something nobody should ever have to defend in court. And somehow, that ordinary little thing turned into a full-blown war over power, pride, and control. That's the real lesson here. Not that HOAs are evil. Most of them aren't. Most are boring. Most are run by decent people who just want the grass cut and the trash picked up on time. The lesson is what happens when authority goes unchecked. When no one pushes back. When everyone thinks it's not worth the trouble. Legally speaking, systems like HOAs only work when there's balance. Rules on paper, common sense in real life. Without that balance, rules turn into weapons. And people like Veronica start believing they're untouchable. I learned something else too. Documentation is power. That camera in my garage wasn't paranoia. It was protection. Every email, every letter, every threat, every video clip. That's what saved me. Not my title. Not my money. Not my job. Evidence. Because bullies thrive in the shadows. They fall apart in the light. Here's another uncomfortable truth. We fall into this psychological trap all the time. When someone sounds confident, official, authoritative, we assume they must be right. They probably know the rules better than I do. I don't want trouble. Maybe I'm overreacting. That hesitation, that's where their power comes from. Veronica didn't control the neighborhood because she was strong. She controlled it because people were tired, cold, busy, and afraid of conflict. So they complied until someone didn't. And once one person stood up, others followed. That's how it always works. Courage is contagious. So is silence. I'm not telling you to pick fights. I'm not telling you to become that neighbor. What I am saying is know your rights. Read the rules. Ask questions. And when something feels wrong, it probably is. No private organization gets to override criminal law. No board. No manager. No president. No matter how fancy the title sounds. Your home is your safe space. Your last line of defense against the chaos outside. Nobody gets to take that from you because they're on a power trip. And maybe the biggest thing I learned? Most people are good. Tom, the board members. Even Linda, eventually. They just needed permission to be brave. They needed someone to say, no, this isn't okay. Once that happened, the system corrected itself. We fixed the rules. We fixed the culture. We fixed the community. And yeah, it cost time, money, sleep, and stress. But it was worth it. Because now Silver Ridge feels like a neighborhood again. Not a surveillance state. Not a courtroom. A place where people wave, help each other, and mind their business. Imagine that. So I'll leave you with this. If you live in an HOA, work under a manager, or answer to any authority, ask yourself, are the rules serving people or controlling them? Because when rules stop protecting and start punishing, that's when it's time to speak up. I'm curious what you think. Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare? A boss on a power trip? Someone abusing policy to bully others? Drop your story in the comments. I read them. And if this helped you understand your rights, or made you feel less alone, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. The more we talk about this, the harder it becomes for people like Veronica to get away with it. Stay warm, stay smart, and don't let anyone bully you out of your own home. I'll see you in the next one.